Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sonia, aka Sonia Blade. If you are new here, welcome, and if you're returning, well, welcome back. I know I've been gone for like 2 weeks. I have not dropped a video in like over 2 weeks, and I do apologize. I always try to explain myself when I do go MIA for a while, and I have started a new job. And so I've been really busy and I have not had time to record. As a matter of fact, I'm like literally about to go to bed because I just didn't have time to record over the weekend. To go ahead and do some messy, because y'all toxic. Don't act like you're on my channel and that you all innocent and you not toxic. Boo boo, you toxic. You toxic. You know how I know you toxic? Because my #1 video that got the most views was the one about where I slapped baby mama in the parking lot. Yeah, you motherfuckers went and loved that fucking shit. So don't act like you bitches ain't messy. Y'all messy. Y'all toxic. Y'all like that shit. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell a story. It's really juicy. Really juicy. And I really contemplated on whether I should tell this story because it's pretty deep. Like, it even makes me look bad, and I was like, do I really want to look bad? But honestly, it was a long time ago, you guys, so I don't care. As you can see in the description box below, this is just part 1. For the sake of this story, I just want people to know that I'm not going to be able to name this company that I worked for because this company is a very huge nationwide company, and I don't want them to come after me. Yeah, it's a lot of detail and, like I said, a lot of moving parts. So for the sake of the people also in the story, I don't want to give away too much. I'm not trying to ruin people's marriages or relationships and stuff like that. And again, this company is a big famous company, so I'm just gonna say that before I started doing dental assisting, before I went to school for this, I actually worked in retail. And go ahead and go get your snacks, go get your drinks, because we diving right in. We diving in, baby. This story takes place when I was about 20 years old. I was a very young, spry chicken. Not really. I already had my kids by then. But I was young, and I got into working retail. Now, before I got this job, I can tell you about the company that I worked for before. I don't know if you've heard of them because I live in Texas, in Dallas, Texas. Well, around Dallas, Texas. But the company that I worked for before was called Freedman's Jewelers. I don't know if y'all have heard of them, but they actually went bankrupt and went out of business. And so that's why I can say this. That's why I can say their name. But I did work for Freedman's Jewelers. And I do have a story time about Freedman Jewelers because they was crooked too. And they told us that we were going out of business. So when they told us that, I immediately started looking for another job. They gave us like, I think, a month heads up. So at the time, there was a company, the company that I ended up working for, opened literally right across the street. So I went over there and I put in an application. It was actually going to be a location a few towns over. So I ended up starting there. Right away, they hired me as a sales manager. So I'm going to name the parts of, at least I can give you the titles of some of the people that worked there. So there was a CSR, which is a customer service rep. There is a sales manager, and those are the 2 sales associates on the floor, as well as the general manager, who of course overlooked everything. You have 2 accountants that called people for collections and accounting and whatever. And then you had 2 drivers that delivered the product. So that was basically the foundation of every location. And so this location was a really big location. It's one of the bigger ones. And it had been there forever. The manager, I think to this day, is still the manager of this company, of that location. He was there for a long time, even when I started. So I ended up jumping over there. Now, I'm not going to lie, you guys, I had sold stuff before. And like I said, Freedman's was just so easy. People already knew what they wanted coming in, and it was pretty easy for me to get excited about jewelry. The products that these stores sold, I really wasn't familiar with it. It was a lot harder. These items were bigger, more expensive, and so to convince somebody to buy these products was hard for me. I didn't really get a whole lot of training the first time around, so I wasn't doing well. I mean, I was trying, but I really wasn't doing well. I only worked there for maybe a few months, and then Ryan showed up. So I codename everybody in my tea times in case you're new and you don't know this. Now, I don't use anybody's real name. I don't want to, again, hurt anybody, throw anybody under the bus. So we're going to codename everybody. So Ryan was actually the regional manager, and so he had visited our location. He was actually fairly new at the time, so he visited our location and he was like, "Hey Sonia, I know that you're kind of struggling with this position, and so we have somebody who's more experienced. We're gonna put them in this position." And I'm thinking, "Oh my god, I got fired! They fucking fired a bitch!" We're going to move you to Ennis, which is the location I wanted to start at. So he was like, we're going to actually move you to Ennis, and you're going to start off as a customer service rep under the sales manager there, and you're going to get trained under him. So I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. That's great. Okay. And honestly, I was cool with it. The pay didn't really change at all. And then plus I was going to be in my own town where I lived at the time. So I was 100% okay with that shit. I ended up transferring over there, and that is where I came under the umbrella of the sales manager there, and we're going to codename him Brian. Everybody here has a code name, the people that are significant anyway. So Brian was the sales manager. Connor was the general manager of the store, and Sally was head of the accountant department. So these people come into play, so I'm going to, again, codename them. There was, again, another accountant person, and there was 2 drivers. One of the drivers was actually Sally's husband, but he's really insignificant. I'm not even going to waste my time codenaming him. Sorry, Sally's husband. I start over there, and right away, like, just immediately, I just clicked with Brian. Me and Brian just clicked. He was about my age, maybe a little bit older, not too much older. He was married. His wife, we're gonna codename her Sarah. He was married to a girl named Sarah, and they had kids together, and he was the like fucking sales associate guru. Like, this guy had top-notch fucking selling skills. He was so impressive to watch when we were at work because he was so good. So apparently he was a sales rep before he got hired on here. I think he sold like fucking vacuum cleaners door to door. He sold other things. So he had a really strong background of just being a seller based off commission. And so he was doing so well in this position. And so I would watch him, and he actually showed me tips. He took me under his wing. He trained me. He told me the areas I needed to work in. A lot of people thought me and Brian had things going on because of how just friendly we were, but it really was just that we were really good friends. And we just realized that, hey, we work well together. I took everything that Brian showed me and everything that he taught me, and he was my mentor, and he made me into a badass fucking sales associate. Like, I was out there fucking killing it. And so after a few months, even he was like, yo, like, all I had to do is just give you the ingredients and you just know how to put it together. And so me and him just started slaying these fucking sales. We got paid hourly, and we also got paid by commission, and we also got bonuses. So the job had perks. It was not a bad paying job. I mean, now it is. I make way much more money then, but it was just not bad, especially at being 20 years old. Yeah, it was not a bad job. And me and him, we would go to lunch together. We would hang out. Again, we were just really good friends. I met his wife, Sarah. I became really good friends with Sarah. She was so sweet, so nice. She liked me. I liked her. And so there was, again, just this friendship that we built. Now, I'm going to touch on Connor for a second. There was a general manager there. Connor was disgusting. Disgusting. Like, And I'm not saying because he's ugly. I mean, he wasn't ugly, but he was not attractive. He was like this middle-aged beer belly of a man, and he had a wife, but he was the fucking definition of a douchebag. Like a douchebag, a pervert, a just like he would say stuff like when customers would walk in, if it was a female, he would say stuff like, "Look at the lips on that girl. I could just imagine what they would look around my dick." What? Who says that? Like, that is so unprofessional. And he would say this about our customers and just was so pervy. And I'm just like, how the fuck are you married? And when I first started working over there, he would make like sexual advances on me and be nasty. Like, I would be bending over and he'd rub his crotch against my ass and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking for something." And finally, dude, I just had enough. I was just like, I just want you to know that I'm not interested. Like, you're going to have to back the fuck up. And I was very straightforward about it. And after that, Connor decided he didn't like me. And I would even tell Brian about it. And Brian's like, yeah, he's like that. He's like, it makes me disgusted as well. And so Brian laughed because he's like, yeah, he's like, Connor complained about you one time. He's like, that snotty bitch. He's like, I'm not going to tolerate Connor being like that with you. He's like, I already told him, like, you know, he wanted to fire you after you did not, you know, declined his sexual advances. And he's like, dude, you can't do that. Like, that she can press sexual harassment charges against you. Like, stop. So Connor sucked. Not only did Connor suck at being just a fucking human being, but Connor sucked at also being a manager, because anytime that there was like a situation with a customer that they wanted to buy the product, but maybe they just didn't have enough income, because you had to sign contracts with this company. Maybe they, you know, they weren't at their job long enough, or maybe they didn't have references, or whatever. Whatever the application was lacking, we could go to Connor and be like, hey, Connor, can you overwrite this? Is there something maybe you can work with? You know, or maybe if they just couldn't come up with the down payment and they had only half of it. So we would have to go to Connor for approval for like general manager overrides. And Connor would shut shit down just because. Just because. It's like he didn't like to make money. And so our location was actually doing really bad, because even though me and Brian, I'm telling you, like, if we didn't have to go through Connor for approvals, me and Brian were fucking slaving it. But there were so many times where we needed Connor to back up our sales, and he wouldn't. And he was never on the floor. He sat his big, fat, fucking beer belly ass in the back of the office just sitting there. And he would have chewing tobacco, and he'd spit it into a fucking can. And so he cans of saliva tobacco juice. It was disgusting. He's nasty. Like, he's gross. I finally just had enough. I was getting frustrated. And then the Lord was looking out for us. Because, so we were in charge of inventory. Well, I wasn't, but technically Brian was. So Brian was in charge of inventory. Once a week, we had to go around and everything had SKUs on them. And we had to scan the SKUs and make sure that everything was accounted for, minus the things that we sold and whatever, and what was also there. And sometimes we would call their locations and be like, hey, you have this and we don't. We can make an exchange if at the time the customer wanted it, but we didn't have it. So keeping track of inventory was very, very important. We started noticing that shit was not right. Like, one item would have a SKU, but with a totally different description that didn't match that item. And it was happening everywhere. And so it started off kind of small, but then it just kind of got bigger. And to the point where there was just so many, there was like really fucked up SKUs on stuff. And it was very obvious. And so me and Brian, we had a theory that we thought it was Connor. That Connor was stealing stuff and probably selling it. I don't know, but it was just really suspicious, and we slowly caught on. It started, like I said, started off small, But then there was just too many inconsistencies with the SKUs. And I started to tell Brian, like, you're going to get in trouble for this. Like, this is something you're in charge of. And he's like, yeah, I get it. So he's like, I'm going to approach Connor and see what he says. And then he came back after he talked to Connor and was like, Connor gave him some bullshit ass story. Like, basically, shut the fuck up and do your job. So, not too long after that, Regional came in. Ryan came back into the store. And I wasn't really surprised because the one thing I can tell you about this company is you can't cheat them. Like, they're going to find out. They keep a very close eye on numbers. They keep a very close eye on inventory. They're a big company. And so Ryan shows up one day and he's in a great mood. He's like, hey, Sonia, I hear you're doing great over here and I seen your numbers and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, hey, Brian, I knew you were going to do well. I knew you were going to train her right. He's like, y'all seem like an amazing duo, da, da, da. He's like, where's Connor? And I was like, oh, he's in his office. And of course, Connor was pissed because nobody told him Ryan was coming. So there he is with his big fat beer belly looking dumbass in the back, and he's spitting his chewing tobacco like the fucking hick that he was. And in walks Ryan, and he's like, why you got like all these cans on your desk? He tells everybody to go to lunch. Now, we all didn't take a lunch like that. We've never closed the store. The store didn't shut down for lunch. We all just like staggered lunches. So he's like, everybody go to lunch. I'll handle if customers come in. Don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. He's like, everybody go to lunch. So me and Brian, we didn't want to go to lunch. We stayed behind. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm trying to see what's going on. So Brian's like, me too. So everybody else went to lunch and me and Brian stayed behind. And we just pretended like, we were just like cleaning stuff and blah, blah, blah. But we were staying really close to the office. And we saw Connor get up. Connor grabbed a few of his items. He walked out and he said, all right, you guys, see you later. I'm out. And he threw up the deuces and he walked out. I shit you not. That's exactly what he did. And he smiled. And we were both looking at each other. Me and Brian were like, the fuck just happened? Did he just get fired? And Ryan comes out and he's like, hey, y'all are here. And we were like, yeah, what happened? And he's like, well, we decided y'all needed a new manager. And he's like, so we have a new manager. He'll be here in about an hour. And I was like, they did not waste time. They did not waste no time. They was like, bye, Connor. In walks Victor. And when Victor walked in, immediately I liked Victor. He just had this huge personality. He was older, in his mid-40s. He looked like... He was so ugly. He looked like Sid from like Toy Story, but like the older version of Sid. This funky, spiky hair. And he dressed really tacky, but he had this huge personality. And he was really quirky and weird, but he was so funny. And he was so outgoing and friendly. And so as soon as he walked in, he's like, hey, I'm Victor, la la la. And we're like, oh shit. And so we just start talking to him. We just start chopping it up. Ryan's there. He's like, yeah, apparently Victor used to work for the company before. He didn't say why he left the company at the time. We didn't know. We find out later. But he's like, yeah, Victor used to work for the company, blah, blah, blah. He was one of our top managers. He's going to be here and he's going to run the store for you guys. And so we were like, bet. Victor was there to make money. So Victor sometimes, if we had a customer who really wanted to get this sale, but there was just stuff that they was missing, like say a reference, Victor would write a fake reference. Or if they only had so much, Victor would say that they paid it all, but they only really paid this much. So Victor did some really crooked, sly shit. And me and Brian caught on really quickly. And we were like, we hope this doesn't come back to bite us in the ass, because this is... But it actually tripled our store within a month. And Ryan comes by. He's the regional manager. And this time he brings Bob. Bob is the division manager. Bob comes in and they're like giving him praise. Oh my God, we knew you would kill it. You've already tripled the store, sales, and you're amazing, and blah, blah, blah. And so me and Brian are like, Yeah, he's great. Like, we don't want to throw him under the bus. About 2 months go by, and finally, corporate caught on. Finally, the regionals caught on. And we end up finding out that not only was he like tweaking the applications of customers to get them approved for these products and doing stuff and whatever, but he started pocketing money on the side and just doing things he wasn't supposed to be doing. And he was doing it because he was a drug addict. And that was the thing that was the little like weird thing about him that I just couldn't pinpoint at the time. And so it's just his demeanor. If you've ever been around like a drug addict, they have little demeanors and characteristics that you can recognize. So at the time I was young and I wasn't used to that. So I was just like, something's off. And that's what it was. And I do feel bad for him because he wasn't a bad person. Again, he was fun. When he was there, we would have so much fun. And he was always laughing and joking. And sometimes we'd just be chilling and watching a movie while we're waiting for customers to walk in. And he'd order pizza for us and stuff like that. So he was a really cool manager, but that doesn't mean that you're the right manager. So Ryan and Bob come in. Same thing happens to Victor that happened to Connor. They talk to him privately. Victor walks out. He chunks the deuces and he leaves. We're like, damn, now what? And then the big announcement comes as Brian got promoted to general manager. I was so happy, you guys. Oh my God. Let me tell you why. Because Brian wanted to be a general manager. He'd been talking about it for so long. That was his goal. And he promised to make me finally the sales manager, which I was finally ready to step up into that position. And so he was like, if I ever get promoted or anything, he's like, I'm definitely going to recommend you to take my spot because you're ready. You're amazing. You're a beast on the floor. Like, you got this. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. So I was really thinking like, yes, like that's me. Like, that's me, boo. That's me. I got that. You got that. I got that. Like, I really just thought we was moving up together. That's not what happened. Sally, silly Sally fucking sells seashells by the seashore looking ass bitch in accounting. Now, she had been saying for the longest that she wanted to be on the sales floor, but they would never put her on the sales floor. And it's because she was really good at accounting. But I did feel bad for her because she would always say, God, I want to be out there with you and blah, blah, blah. I know I'd be so great. And I'm like, yeah, you would be. I had nothing against her. But as soon as they announced that he was going to be general manager, silly Sally's looking bitch ass fucking steps in, takes Ryan to the side, and just starts hammering away on him like, just, I want to be the sales manager. I want to be the sales manager. I'm tired of doing accounting, blah, 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 blah. Now, look, I'm not opposed to people moving up where they should be, but I earned that spot. I worked my ass off for that spot. And so they should have just made her a CSR. But no. They end up putting this fucking bitch, sorry, they end up putting Sally's bitch ass as a sales manager. And I asked Brian, like, what the fuck happened, dude? Like, I thought you had my back, bro. And he's like, well, Ryan wanted to give her a shot. She has been with the company a lot longer than you, and she's been very vocal that she wants to be a sales manager. He said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. He said, I'm going to tell you what I told her. But I'm going to be more honest with you because you my girl. I'm like, tell me what's going on. So he said, I told her, I'm going to put you as a sales manager. But he said, I recommend you work with Sonia as a team. Don't try to compete because I taught her everything she knows. She's a beast. Be careful. Don't try to overstep her. Work with her. She can teach you. Sally, bitch ass, was like, no, I don't need to know anything from her. I know blah, 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 blah. She's not going to have that position for long. Just do you. I was like, bet. So Sally comes in and she's all excited and she immediately starts making changes. Like, I want to do this and I want to set up this display and I want to do this and starts moving the floor around and doing all this stuff and just going fucking ham. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. Just let her do her thing. Now, what I did notice is, I guess it's how I started out, but she wasn't great. I mean, she was a good salesperson. She just wasn't hungry enough. And the areas where she was hungry, she didn't know how to apply it because she had never really done sales before. So when customers would come in, to her one customer that she'd be trying to close, I'd already closed 3 because I could juggle more customers than her. And I was just killing it. And I really wasn't trying to. I even approached her and was like, hey, do you want me to show you some stuff? Like, I can show you the things that, Brian taught me and what's been working for me. And she basically was like, no, I don't need to know anything from you. You ain't got nothing to teach me. And I'm just like, okay, bitch. The day comes where there's some customers in there and it was a busy ass day. Busy. So it's super busy. We got a bunch of customers in the store and it's me, Brian, and Sally's bitch ass on the floor because we had to get these sales. I'm working with this one customer. I actually had 2 customers at the time. I closed one customer, but the other customer, they spoke Spanish. Now look, I'm Mexican, okay? But I'm not Mexican, okay? I'm American Mexican. I'm not Mexican. Okay, no Nintendo. I don't speak no Espanol. So, don't ask me. I could cuss you out. I could say little things, but having a full-on fucking conversation? Nah. I know Spanglish. We can chop and screw this shit back and forth, but I don't know if you're like, I don't understand you, bro. I don't understand you. Calm down, La Bamba. I don't understand you. So I was talking to this customer, this Mexicans, and the wife, she knew a little bit of English, and so I was getting across to her, and I pretty much had it sold. But the husband was asking questions, and it was hard to translate. So he was asking just something really complicated, and I really didn't know how to do it. Now, Sally's bitch ass, even though she was güera, she apparently knew Spanish. So I call Sally's bitch ass. I'm like, hey, Sally's bitch ass, come over here, please. I need you to translate this. I already explained this to the wife. I already have her sold, but the husband has a question, and it's just hard for us to translate. Can you just answer the question? So I can understand if Sally took over that sale and just like completely ran with it with herself, but this is literally what she did. She goes, okay, asked him what he was wanting to know. He asked the question. She said, this is what he wants to know. And I said, oh, okay. I answered. She related it back to him, and he said, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. We want to go through with it. Cool. Thanks, Sally's bitch ass. You can go stand your ass back over there. So I take the customers up to the front. I ring them up. I get the sale, and I keep moving on with my day. Now, I move on to the next customer, and I'm working, and I see Sally walk over to Brian and tell Brian, like, hey, can I speak to you? Brian's like, I'm in the middle of working with a customer. She's like, no, I need to speak to you now. It's an emergency. Alarms were just going off, like, bitch is about to fucking throw you under the bus. This bitch is about to fucking say something to him. So, I'm just like, I know she's not about to bitch over this fucking cell. That was my cell. That was my cell. I can understand if I couldn't close it at all and she had to jump in and intervene. I would have totally given it to her. No, bitch. I did all the legwork. You answered one measly ass, funky ass fucking question. That ain't your cell. So she pulls Brian to the very, very front, outside the front door, and she's going the fuck off. She's screaming, she's cussing. I can't hear what she's saying, but she's gesturing towards the inside like this. There's huge windows. I walk outside and I'm like, hey, I don't know what this discussion's about, but we got 6 people in here. I'm holding off 3. I need some help. So whatever y'all discussing, can y'all like push that shit to the side? Because we need to take care of this. Brian's like, we'll talk later. She's like, okay. She smiles at me, doesn't act like she's mad. So I'm like, maybe it wasn't about me. She walks back inside and we continue the rest of our day. The rest of the day goes on. Everybody leaves. Me, I want to know. Bitch, I want to know if you was talking shit. I want to know if my bitch radar was fucking right. I want to know if Sally's bitch ass was bitching about that sale. I wanted to know. So I doot my little ass right over there right after work, and I sat down in front of Brian after everybody left, and I said, she was bitching about that sale, wasn't she? And he goes, yeah, how do you know that? And I said, because I know her. I've been working with her long enough. He said, I told her. I told you Sonia is a beast on the floor. You keep trying to compete with her. It's not going to work. He's like, she's competing with you. She's trying to prove that she's a better salesperson than you. And I just looked at him and I said, so what do you think I should do? Like, I tried to train her. I tried to give her pointers. She didn't want my advice. So what do I do from this point on? Because now I'm pissed. Oh, bitch, I'm pissed. Brian goes, honestly, if I was you, I'd turn your shit up a notch and push her out of that position. And I went, that's why I like you. I got it. See you on Monday. I hit the fucking ground running, baby. As soon as I fucking came back to work on Monday, I was on it. Fuck Sally's bitch ass. Because I was about to outsell that hoe. You want to try to bitch and all this other stuff about me and say all this shit behind my back but smile in my face whenever we see each other every time you come into work. I don't play that shit. I don't play that. We're supposed to be a team. But since you want to compete, all right, bitch, let me give you some competition. She didn't even last a month. Unfortunately, she had to go back to accounting. And guess who became the new sales manager? Now, here's where shit starts to get really twisted. We end up hiring a CSR, and of course, like I told you, they hired young, attractive sales ladies or salespeople. In walks, we're gonna codename her Vicky. Vicky's young. I'm already 21 by this point. I know, so old, right? Vicky's probably like 19. Vicky's super young. And she's tiny. I'm 4'11", but she had to be like 4'9". I was skinny back then, but she was even skinnier. But she was like this thin. Just she had such tiny little parts. And so she was tiny. She didn't have no figure. She had the figure of like a 11 or 12-year-old. Like, she was very petite in every area. And she wasn't ugly. She just looked like a fucking 11 or 12-year-old. Like, she looked really young. And her body was not developed at all. And I really liked her, though. Vicky was so cool. Me and her hit it off right away. We started going to lunch together. We became really good friends. She was more quiet, more laid back. And so I immediately was the dominant one, and I took over all the sales. She wasn't bad at it. She just wasn't great, but she wasn't horrible. So I could work with her, though. She wanted to learn. She was willing to learn, and she did really good sometimes. She was really smart and intelligent and learned about the product really quickly. She was a fast learner, so I definitely didn't mind working with her. Now, Vicky's there for maybe, I don't know, a few weeks, not that long. And one day after everybody leaves, me and Brian were cleaning up the store or whatever, and Brian says, can I say something to you? Can I, be honest with you? And I was like, what's up? And he's like, don't judge me, bro. Don't judge me. And I was like, yo, no judgment. What's up? And he's like, I want to fuck the shit out of Vicky. What? 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 Let me tell you, I was shooketh. Because his wife, Sarah, was gorgeous, beautiful, a fucking 10, bro. She had a banging body and was super pretty. And she was so nice, so sweet. She worked at a daycare. She was like a teacher or something. And you want this training bra wearing looks like an 11-year-old child. That, like, why? He was starting to find little Vicky's 11-year-old looking ass. Don't even have an ass. He was starting to find her attractive, apparently. And he was, like, really adamant about it. Just like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, I like Sarah. Don't do this, please. I'm like, Brian, please, don't do this. Don't do this to Sarah. Like, I'm not going to tell her. A few days go by, and I see Brian ask Vicky to go to lunch. They go to lunch together, and Brian texts me and says, hey, will you cover for me for the next hour? I'm like, no. They walk back into the store, and I'm standing there just at the front counter like, I know what y'all's doing, nasties. Vicky walks in with a little pep in her step, and she's smiling, and she looks at me like, yeah, bitch, I got something to tell you. And I'm like, no, bitch, I don't want to know. And Brian just walks around like he's cool, and apparently he got a little relief. And after work, I'm like, did you fuck her? And he's like, yeah, I took her to a hotel. I was like, oh my God, why? I'm like, please don't let this be a thing. Please don't let this be a thing. Next day, Vicky's like, hey, you want to go to lunch? I have something to tell you. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. I don't want to know, bitch. I already know, but she doesn't know that I know. So we go to lunch, and we sit down, and I'm acting totally naive. Like, I don't know what she's about to tell me. And I'm just like, so what's up? And then she's like, remember how yesterday I went to lunch with Brian? And I was like, oh, really? I didn't know that. And I'm like, so what happened? And she's like, yeah, so we fucked. And I went, what? You did? Oh my God, I am shooketh. So was it good? The bitch starts going into detail about Brian, and I'm just like, oh, Vicky, I don't want to know. I mean, I want to know, but I don't want to know. But it was pretty good information. Guys, they started having an affair. It started happening 3 times a week. And every time they would leave, I'm just like, fucking hate to come in and be like, hey, where's Brian? And I'm like, some water. He gone, bitch. He's gone. About to contradict myself, you guys, in a little while. Yeah, you're about to be highly disappointed in me. I am one day in the store, and we're hiring for a new driver, and I'm like, okay. Of course, Brian handles all the hiring, and I'm actually sitting right when you walk into the store. There's like a display, like I said, there's windows, and so I'm sitting right there, like right when you walk in. And unless you're like really looking, like nobody like immediately saw that I was sitting there, because I had all these boxes around and this huge display I was working on. So I'm sitting on the floor, and I'm like messy with stuff, and there's stuff, above me. And I see somebody walk in like really fast right behind me, and they walk through the door, and I hear the chime, and I'm thinking it's a customer, So I jump up, and I'm like, hey, welcome to, how are you? I'm Sonia. How can I help you? And the guy stops and turns. And when he turns to look at me, yeah, he was fine. We'll name him Tyrone. Oh my God. Tyrone, baby. So Tyrone was a brother, and y'all know I've said this so many times on my channels. I love brothers, and he was a brother. Like, I don't discriminate against brothers. I like every shade, and this guy was pretty chocolatey and scrumptious. Like, he had a banging body because he used to work out, and he dressed nice, and he had like a really sultry, creamy voice. Like, it was deep and like some fucking Luther Vandross. Like, what up, girl? Oh my God. It took me a second, like, to be like, oh shit. Like, and I had to kind of like be like, okay, Sonia, like snap out of it. Like I didn't know that he was applying for the driving position at that point. I thought he was a customer still. So I'm just like, I took a deep breath. I think we were standing there staring at each other. It felt like forever, but it probably was only like 10 seconds. But it was a pause. And he was staring at me and I was staring at him. And I was like, hi, I'm Sonia. How can I help you? And he's just still staring at me, not saying anything. And I'm like, I kind of like laugh a little, like, you know, whatever. And I'm just like, is everything okay? Like, can I help you with something? And he's like, and he holds up a paper application. Because, yes, bitches, back then we had to do paper applications. Not everything was online. Yeah, I'm applying for the driving position. And I was like, oh. And he's like, you know, Brian is supposed to be interviewing me. I was like, oh, let me go get Brian. I'll be right back. You just have a seat. So I walked, you know, I had him sit there, like, real close by in his chair, and I kind of walked past him, make sure and shake my little ass while I walk by, like, yeah, bitch. Really walk into the office, and I close the door, and I'm like, Brian, yeah? And I'm like, this guy's here to apply for the driving position, and I want you to hire him. He's like, what? And I was like, hire him. And he's like, wait, you met him? And I said, yes, he's sitting outside. And I said, I thought he was a customer. I said, he is fucking fine. Hire him. You ain't the only one that can have fucking fun up here, bro. Hire him. He was like, yeah, and he's married. Like, what? He's like, yeah. His wife works with my wife at the daycare. That's how I know him. We're friends. I'm like, okay, well, that fucking sucks. So I go back to my display, go back to doing my shit. They've been in there forever. I finally walk back behind the counter, trying to walk past the window in the office, trying to see what the fuck is going on. Like, when Tyrone gonna come back out, bruh? I'm just standing there. Finally, they come back out. They're hemming and hawing. And then Brian says, okay, Tyrone, this is Sonia. She's my sales manager. And Brian will be back on this day to start. And I was like, oh, great. That's awesome. All right. Yay. Wonderful. Fantastic. I love it. So Tyrone's fine ass ends up leaving. And I look at Brian. And Brian's like, no, Sonia. And I was like, I'm not going to do nothing. But you're fucking one to talk. And he's like, yeah, he's interested in you. And I was like, really? What'd he say? Did he say something about me? And he's like, yeah, he kept staring at you when you were walking behind the counter. He's like, we could see you. And he said, I told him, no, Tyrone, you can't. And I was like, cock blocking, looking at. Tyrone starts and everybody introduces him. And right away, me and Tyrone just started clicking. Now, I did try to say, hey, you know what? I know he's married, but it ain't gonna hurt for me to flirt a little. Okay, yes, you know, I know you guys. I know. You ain't gotta tell me. I'm wrong. I was wrong. Because I wish a bitch would flirt with my mans. Bro, I would be up there. Thought back then, you know, remember, I'm 21 years old. Hey, I'm single. Single, ready to mingle. So I was free to do whatever the fuck I want. Tyrone, on the other hand, wasn't. When he comes, I'm really not even thinking of anything. I'm just like, okay, I got some good eye candy at least. All right, cool. But then Tyrone starts coming into work, bringing me coffee, bringing me a flower, not a whole bunch of flowers, maybe one. You know, making little gestures and smiling and spending extra time by my little counter, just talking, telling me, oh, you look pretty today, Sonia. I love the way your hair is today, Sonia. And I'm just like, eating that shit up. Eating it up. Like, okay, maybe it's okay to flirt. You know, just a flirt. You know, we can flirt. Like, this doesn't hurt nothing. I'm not gonna, like, it doesn't hurt, right? I know. It gets worse. So he comes in and this becomes like this huge flirting thing. And I'm not going to lie, you guys, the sexual tension was there. It was like electricity. I was so frustrated because I hadn't had none in a while. I was single. I was single. There was dust down there. That's how long it had been. He started to not even give a fuck that Brian was there. Sally was there. Sally's bitch ass fucking husband was there. Like, he didn't care who was around. He was outright just full on flirting at that point. Just making just like inappropriate remarks and inappropriate gestures and smiling and winking and stuff like that. And Brian was like, "Are you fucking him?" And I was like, "No, that's you, bro. That's you. No." And he was like, "Don't do it." And I was like, the pot calling the kettle black, aren't we? Mind your business. Mind your business. And then the day comes where he's there in front of everybody and he starts full on fucking flirting. And he says something, I can't remember what he says, and then he winks at me and he leaves. And Sally's standing right there. Sally's bitch ass was standing right there. And of course, she goes, as soon as he walks out the door, Sally goes, "Are you fucking him?" And I went, "What?" And she's like, "Are you fucking him?" And I was like, "No, I'm not fucking him. He's married." And she's like, "Yeah, but..." She's like, "Bro, y'all not even trying to hide that y'all like each other, like, at all." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I'm not telling him to flirt with me. Like, he's flirting with me. We're just flirting." And then Sally said something that broke my heart. She says, "Well, it's cool. I've kind of been waiting for him to ask me out." Bitch, what? Wait a minute. What do you mean? She says, "Yeah, because he's been flirting with me too." I haven't seen it. She's like, "Yeah, every time he comes in there to turn in some paperwork to Brian, he gestures to me and he does," like, it sounded very similar to what he was doing to me. So I kind of felt like there was some truth on it. And I'm not going to lie, it pissed me off. I know it shouldn't because the man's already married and he's already taken and I shouldn't give a fuck. But I gave a fuck. I ended up seeing Tyrone's wife and we're going to code name her Christina. I seen Christina, Tyrone's wife. Christina looked just like me. She's a short, dark-haired Mexican chick. Very pretty, by the way. And I showed her the utmost respect. Besides when her husband came to work and I flirted with him. But I showed her respect. So when this bitch was saying that he was hitting on her, I was like, "Bitch, where?" It left a super, super, super sour taste in my mouth. After that, I was like, fuck Tyrone. Fuck your bitch ass Sally and fuck Tyrone. After that, every time Tyrone would come in, I didn't even glance at him. I'd immediately give him his next order to be delivered, just like this. "Here you go. You need to go to this appointment. It's at 12 o'clock, and just make sure you bring that back to receipt." "Okay, thanks." And then I turned around and I started doing the thing. And he would try to, like, engage a conversation with me and, make little remarks. I wouldn't even respond. I wouldn't even look at him, bro. I was like Johnny Depp. "You're not looking into these eyes ever again. Ever again." I was like, no. And I just kept it on moving. So he immediately, he knew that something was wrong. It took 2 days. And he comes up to me one day and he says, "Yo, Sonia, can I talk to you?" And I was just like, "Yeah, what's up? What's up? What you got to say?" And he says, "Is something wrong?" And I was like, "No, nothing's wrong." And he's like, "Well, I'm just saying, you haven't been like your normal self." And I was like, I have. What do you want, Tyrone? What can I help you with?" And he's like, "Well, I kind of thought we had something." "You thought we had something? Wait. Don't you have something with Christina?" Oh, you're going to go there? And I was like, "I'm not married. You are." And he's like, well, I didn't think you gave a shit. I was like, bitch, I don't give a fuck. That's besides the point. I do care, because then I would have already made a move on you. But apparently, you're making a move on everybody. And he's like, what are you talking about? So I tell him what bitch ass silly Sally's saying over there selling fucking seashores and shit. And I was like, yeah, she even said that you were flirting with her, you were telling her stuff, all the things you were telling me. And he was like, she's lying. I'm not attracted to her. She's not even my type. And I was like, oh yeah, what's your type? And he's like, pretty Mexican girls. And I was like, oh yeah? Don't you wish that now that you know the things that you know, that you can go back in time and just slap the shit out of your old self? Alright, you guys, that's where we're gonna stop. Because it's about to get really messy. If it ain't even messy, if you think it's messy now, it's about to get even messier. This tea is scalding hot, you guys. Scalding hot. So, I release part 2 next week. Hopefully by Monday. And let you know what the outcome was and how everything went down. It ends with a fucking bang. What a bang. What a bing bang. But anyway, I'm sleepy. I'm getting tired and tired of talking. So I'm about to go to Mimi's. But thanks for sticking around. I would really appreciate it if you guys would show some support on my channel. I know I have a lot of subscribers, but a lot of you guys are not hitting that like button. This is what's going to help me get a rotation on YouTube and help me get out there. So if you're subscribed and you've watched this channel, I also want to see that you're liking and you're also hitting that notification bell so you know when I drop my tea times. So please do that. Also give you an update. I'm still in the competition for the Ultimate Stylist, you guys. Yo, what you guys? All right, I already made it round 2. This Thursday I have to make it as a top 10. So I had to make it as a top 15 for last week, and I made it. So I'm on to round 2. I have to stay within the top 10 this Thursday, and then I'll move on to round 3. So we're getting close to the end of the competition. It's starting to get tight. And I really appreciate it. I forgot to link in the description box below. I forgot to put my link to my profile so you guys can go vote. You can give me 1 free vote a day. You can give me 1 free vote every 24 hours. So if you vote today at 4, you can't vote again till next time. You can also buy votes. I'm not pushing anybody to buy votes. Unless you want to buy votes, I'll take it. But yes, I'm still in the running, and I really want to win this, you guys. Again, for the exposure, to bring people to my channel. And I'd really appreciate if you guys would do that. Please, go vote for me. I want to win this competition. It would mean so much to me. And again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and the little notification bell so you know when I drop my tea times. Show me some support. Until next time, you guys, don't forget to love yourself because you are all you have. Thanks.
So I dance trying to fuck you, baby. Hopefully we don't have no babies. I don't even wanna go